But the thing about gynocentrism and the MGTOW community, it really seems to be drifting towards the sort of biological determinist position.
So, you're a scientist, and somewhere along the way, hammered into your head is the inevitable nature versus nurture, and that's at least up there with Coke versus Pepsi or Greeks versus Trojans. So, nature versus nurture, this by now utterly oversimplifying view of where influences on how a cell deals with an energy crisis, up to what makes us who we are on the most individualistic levels of personality. And what you've got is this complete false dichotomy built around nature as deterministic. At the very bottom of all the causality of life is DNA and the code of codes and the Holy Grail, and everything is driven by it. And at the other end, a much more social science perspective, which is we are social organisms, and biology is for slime molds. Humans are free of biology, and obviously both views are nonsense. What you see instead is it is virtually impossible to understand how biology works outside the context of environment.
Gynocentrism includes many biological and social components. One aspect of gynocentrism, hypergamy, women using men for resources and utility, is biologically motivated and evolutionarily ingrained into female psychology, but expressed differently based on the social environment. It is a result of women being dependent on man's superior utility, mainly manual labour, combat, and innovation. About 95% of manual labour, combat, and innovation is done by males, and that's being generous to the ladies. Women being physically useless during pregnancy also compounds this evolutionary adaptation. Historically, women relied upon male utility directly, whether through physical wealth creation, or the income he received as a payment for that. This wealth was given to females through marriage, which used to provide males with a high degree of relationship security, usually with a virgin, and someone to do household chores, and actually raise their children. It also used to provide men with access to their children, which it doesn't anymore either. Now innovation and industrialization has reached a high level. Women have many employment opportunities, which they didn't used to have in the past, usually doing work such as childcaring, teaching, or selling their sexuality through modelling, or providing a pretty politically correct face for a corporation. Men still do most of the work that is difficult, risky, and critical for maintaining the systems of modern civilization, while females are its primary beneficiaries. Hypergamy is also politically entrenched in most Western countries. This is known as feminism. Feminism encourages female quotas in education and the workplace, but only for comfortable, high-paying office jobs, which means that men who can perform better than these women are discriminated against because less capable women are chosen over them. It's about equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity or meritocracy. Could you imagine if men's sports teams required at least 50% females? Could you imagine the decline in meritocracy and performance? Well, that's what we are doing to our existing institutions at the expense of male opportunity and social functionality. Hypergamous relationships are no longer required by females, but are still sought after as a result of their sexual psychology and self-interest mechanisms. Most women, if given the opportunity, would prefer to secure a relationship with a high-earning male, get married, have kids, and be set financially rather than do work. But if they cannot, never mind. Men who pay most of the taxes will become the collective baby daddies for their welfare payments, so that they can contribute to overpopulation in a collapsing and outdated economy that requires less human workers and hence less reproduction, and more innovation, and hence an education system tailored towards the needs of males. Our current education system reinforces female learning patterns, females who are, due to their lack of testosterone, more risk-averse and more submissive to authority. Women make about 85% of consumer purchases, and go into debt more than males. Hypergamy and female status seeking is being used to fuel corporations, create big government, and increase debt. Women don't inherently want money, but in a society where money is God, the man who owns the most of it is the most desirable, and hence men pursue it blindly because it is an abstract representation of female validation, on top of the other obvious perks it offers. This leads men to pursue work that is high-paying rather than following their own dreams, which often means they will become a cog in the wheel of a system that is set up to utilize their utility for existing institutions, whose primary motive is to make money, not create physical wealth in any organized and optimized way. So while money may translate into wealth, it is not an accurate barometer of a man's actual utility, integrity, or self-worth. Money is simply assumed by most as the most rational form of economy we could possibly create, despite its increasing inability to actually economize, motivate, reward, and do all that based on merit. So while I recognize hypergamy and hence gynocentrism being evolutionary ingrained, this is not the issue I have with it necessarily, rather the destructive consequences of how this behavioral trait manifests and influences broader social behaviors in the current economic system based on values that are counterproductive to human well-being, meritocracy, and actual wealth creation.
So what exactly does this economic paradigm call for? What is it that keeps our economic system going? Consumption. Or more accurately, cyclical consumption. When we break down the foundation of classic market economics, we are left with a pattern of monetary exchange that simply cannot be allowed to stop or even substantially slowed, if the society as we know it is to remain operational. There are three main actors on the economic stage: the employee, the employer, and the consumer. The employee sells labor to the employer for income. The employer sells its production services and hence goods to the consumer for income. And the consumer, of course, is simply another role of the employer and employee, spending back into the system to enable the cyclical consumption to continue. In other words, the global market system is based on the assumption that there will always be enough product demand in society to move enough money around at a rate which can keep the consumption process going. And the faster the rate of consumption, the more so-called economic growth is assumed, and so the machine goes. But hold on, I thought an economy was meant to, economize? Doesn't the very term have to do with preservation and efficiency and a reduction of waste? So how does our system, which demands consumption and the more the better, efficiently preserve or economize at all? Well, it doesn't. The intent of the market system is, in fact, the exact opposite of what a real economy is supposed to do, which is efficiently and conservatively orient the materials for production and distribution of life-supporting goods. We live on a finite planet with finite resources, where, for example, the oil we utilize took millions of years to develop, where the minerals we use took billions of years to develop. So, having a system that deliberately promotes the acceleration of consumption for the sake of so-called economic growth is pure ecocidal insanity.
But we haven't even figured out the causal mechanism. We don't want to face the causal mechanism. We just want to go on, that's what insanity is, where you keep doing the same thing over and over again, though it clearly doesn't work. So you're really dealing with not an economic system, but I would go so far as to say an anti-economic system.
There's an old saying that the competitive market model seeks to create the best possible goods at the lowest possible prices. This statement is essentially the incentive concept, which justifies market competition based on the assumption that the result is the production of higher quality goods. If I was going to build myself a table from scratch, I would naturally build it out of the best, most durable materials possible, right? With the intent for it to last as long as possible. Why would I want to make something poor, knowing I would have to eventually do it again and expend more materials and more energy? Well, as rational as that may seem in the physical world, when it comes to the market world, it is not only explicitly irrational, it is not even an option. It is technically impossible to produce the best of anything if a company is to maintain a competitive edge and hence remain affordable to the consumer. Literally everything created and set for sale in the global economy is immediately inferior the moment it is produced, for it is a mathematical impossibility to make the most scientifically advanced, efficient, and strategically sustainable products. This is due to the fact that the market system requires that cost efficiency, or the need to reduce expenses, exist at every stage of production, from the cost of labor to the cost of materials and packaging, and so on. This competitive strategy, of course, is to make sure the public buys their goods rather than from a competing producer. which is doing the exact same thing to also make their goods both competitive and affordable. This immutably wasteful consequence of the system could be termed intrinsic obsolescence. However, this is only one part of a larger problem. A fundamental governing principle of market economics, one that you will not find in any textbook, by the way, is the following. Nothing produced can be allowed to maintain a lifespan longer than what can be endured in order to continue cyclical consumption. In other words, it is critical that stuff break down, fail, and expire within a certain amount of time. This is termed planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is the backbone of the underlying market strategy of every goods-producing corporation in existence. While very few, of course, would admit to such a strategy outright, what they do is mask it within the intrinsic obsolescence phenomenon just discussed, while often ignoring or even suppressing new advents in technology which might create a more sustainable, durable good. So, if it wasn't wasteful enough that the system inherently cannot allow the most durable and efficient goods to be produced, planned obsolescence deliberately recognizes that the longer any good is in operation, the worse it is for sustaining cyclical consumption and hence the market system itself. In other words, product sustainability is actually inverse to economic growth, and hence there is a direct, reinforced incentive to make sure lifespans are short of any given good produced. And in fact, the system cannot operate any other way. One glance at the sea of landfills now spreading across the world show the obsolescence reality. There are now billions of cheaply made cell phones, computers, and other technology, each full of precious, difficult-to-mine materials such as gold, coltan, copper, now rotting in vast piles, usually due to the mere malfunction or obsolescence of small parts, which, in a conservative society, could likely be fixed or updated, and the life of the good extended. Unfortunately, as efficient as that may seem in our physical reality, living on a finite planet with finite resources, it is explicitly inefficient with respect to the market. To put it into a phrase, efficiency, sustainability, and preservation are the enemies of our economic system. Likewise, just as physical goods need to be constantly produced and reproduced, regardless of their environmental impact, the service industry operates with an equal rationale. The fact is, there is no monetary benefit to resolving any problems which are currently being serviced. At the end of the day, the last thing the medical establishment really wants is the curing of diseases such as cancer, which would eliminate countless jobs and trillions in revenue. And since we're on the subject, crime and terrorism in this system are good. Well, at least economically, for it is employing police, generating high-value commodities for security, not to mention the value of prisons that are privately owned for profit. And how about war? The war industry in America is a huge driver of GDP, one of the most profitable industries, producing weapons of death and destruction. The favorite game of this industry is to blow things up and then go and rebuild them for profit. We saw this with the windfall billion-dollar contracts made from the Iraq War. The bottom line is that socially negative attributes of society have become positively rewarded ventures for industry, and any interest in problem resolution or environmental sustainability and conservation is intrinsically counter to economic sustainability. And this is why, every time you see the GDP rise in any country, you are witnessing an increase in necessity, whether real or contrived. And by definition, a necessity is rooted in inefficiency. Hence, increased necessity means increased inefficiency.
The American dream is based on rampant consumerism. It is based upon the fact that mainstream media, and especially commercial advertising, all corporations who need this infinite growth have convinced us, or brainwashed most people in America, and hence the world, that we have to have X number of material possessions and the possibility of gaining infinitely more material possessions in order to be happy. That's just not true. So why do people continue to buy in this way, which is ultimately eco-genocidal in its systemic effects cumulatively? And it just is classical operant conditioning. You simply put inputs of conditioning into the organism, and you have outputs of desired behaviors or goals or objectives. And it has all the resources of technology, and they boast about how they get into the minds of infants. What they hear is already making them conditioned to the brand. then you see, well, that's how people have been such fools, in a way they've been taught to be fools. It's a value system disorder.
You know, if there is any testament to the plasticity of the human mind, if there is any proof to how malleable human thought is and how easily conditioned and guided people can become based on the nature of their environmental stimulus and what it reinforces, the world of commercial advertising is the proof. You have to stand in awe at the level of brainwashing where these programmed robots known as consumers wander the landscape only to walk into a store and spend, say, $4,000 on a handbag that likely costs $10 to make in a sweatshop overseas, only for the brand status it supposedly represents in the culture. Or perhaps the ancient communal traditions which increase trust and cohesiveness in society, which have now been hijacked by acquisitive, materialistic values, where now annually we exchange useless crap a few times a year. And we might wonder why so many today have a compulsion to shopping and acquisition, when it is clear that they have been conditioned from childhood to expect material goods as a sign of their status with friends and family. The fact is, the foundation of any society are the values that support its operation, and our society, as it exists, can only operate if our values support the conspicuous consumption it requires to continue the market system. 75 years ago, consumption in America and much of the First World was half of what we see today per person. Today's new consumer culture has been manufactured and imposed due to the very real need for higher and higher levels of consumption. And this is why most corporations now spend more money on advertising than the actual process of product creation itself. They work diligently to create a false need for you to fill, and it happens to work.
I try to help the world, they call me Marx. I need some help myself, this planet sucks. Hey, what we gotta do to get the bucks? Hey, who I gotta be to get sweet fucks? Hey, how I'm always running out of luck. Hey, how my legs are running but I'm fucking stuck. Gates closing around me nearly fully shut. Mason getting fucking fired for calling sluts and slut. Rapes being redefined so men can be locked up. Things being orally applied so that we all shut up. But I no longer give a fuck. Nothing to lose except my fucking run. Can't sleep, I'm tired, need a bustin' nut. Sick of my hands that don't have time for sluts. And all the good girls never give a fuck. I'd rather simply give the bad ones bucks. Cause shit, at least they know just how to suck. No child support if I go knock one up. And shit, I get quite excited to first meet a girl and soon become an insider. No small talk, toxic drinks, or jugs of apple cider, and smoking outside, hoping a hearty yes for a lot of transactions. Quick, it gets me inside. I'm giving the dick, then split. No more confiding, the keeps my head up when I'm striding in this world with rules I ain't abiding. I used to crawl through dirt for bitches, now I'm gliding through air without a care. Yeah, I'm fucking flying, look down below, out of the world that's fucking dying. Men killing, enslaving, they crazy for the diamonds. I guess we all paying for sex if we ain't lying. But I'm no longer trying to win that game, I'm decrying to all my fellow men that we all start striving for something more than slavery, simply surviving. Want us to feel alive without the deep blue diving. But we on a downhill course, wet slipping, sliding. No father figures to help, no friendly hands be guiding. Where all the brave men at? Time to come out of hiding, cause we're the last to rest once this shit goes capsizing. The state is overflowed, sinking free enterprising. But there's no currency flow when there's monopolizing. Your money's burning slow, I hope you all realizing that this shit's got to go. Fuck your mix supersizing. Work hard with nothing to show. Rat race a daily grinding. The dumb majority rule when we're democratizing. The smart should run the show. It's time for some refining. Dark nights unite with bros, conquer all those white knighting. Sometimes we need dividing to get the smart uniting. We need some fast igniting to get the fires lighting. Ideas may coinciding, calculated, deciding. Good men no longer providing, your power overriding. No longer need your eggs, don't need your multiplying. Now in between your legs, just good for satisfying. The planet's full of dregs, they over-occupying. Don't get the bitches pregs, time they start edifying.